Welcome back to another episode of the Find Food Freedom Podcast. This is your host, Sam Previte, and I'm so freaking excited that you're here, especially for this week's episode, because this episode is so near and dear to my heart. It is National Infertility Awareness Week. And who knows if you knew that or not, but chances are, if you clicked on this episode, you might be thinking about trying to conceive, or maybe you've been trying to conceive for a few months now and haven't seen a positive pregnancy test. Maybe you're actively going through infertility treatments. Maybe you have a friend going through IVF or fertility treatments, whatever it may be. So I'm really excited you're here because it's interesting. I noticed, like, with myself, that I'm very open about my fertility journey. I've been on multiple podcasts about it. I've done multiple podcasts about it. And I kind of always refer people back to these podcast episodes that I recorded when I was in the thick of my fertility journey. But now, being a mom of two littles, I have an almost 1 and 3 year old. I feel so far removed from my fertility journey. And I guess I should do trigger warning, because if you're trying to conceive and you feel like you just don't know if you're ever going to get pregnant, like, please know I know that ache so deeply. Like, from the moment we started trying till the moment I got my first daughter in my arms, it was almost like 4 years from like the first time all the way to getting, having her. And I remember when they placed her in my arms, it was just like, I felt like I could finally breathe. I was like, we did it. She's here. Like, we did it. And it's interesting because I think people think you're, like, air quotes, cured from infertility once you have a child, and they're like, see, you did it. Now you can have more. But it's like, I went through IVF, like, no child is guaranteed through IVF. Like, yes, it worked the first time, but that doesn't mean it's going to work the second time. So I'm just jumping right into it today, but I want to go through, like, an updated timeline of my fertility journey, just like a more recent episode now that I have this different perspective being in motherhood. Um, I want to share some facts, some resources, some of my favorite accounts when it comes to fertility. So I just want to talk all things fertility today, because it's it's really important as a woman and as a birthing parent. And when you think about, like, at least for me, like, I felt like there were very little resources when I was going through it, and I felt so isolated. So I just really want to talk about it and put it out there. And another thing I will say is, like, so I see so much bullshit online about, like, what you should eat when you're going through infertility. And it's like, wrong. Okay, so let's talk about it. So first, I like to use my personal story just because I think it helps shed light on what we do. But before we do, I'm okay. My brain is like a fucking ping pong ball right now. I'm going like bing, bing, bing. So please bear with me. I'm on my second iced coffee. My daughter, who was an IVF baby and a little petri dish, is down for a nap, and I'm looking at her on the monitor. And for any parents out there that have a child that know, whew, nap time could be 20 minutes. It could be 3 hours. You never know what you're going to get. So as soon as she went down for a nap, I was like, I have to record this podcast. I, like, ran in here. Now I'm like, I feel like I need to take a step back and calm down, because I feel like I'm like a buzzer beater and just like trying to get it all out. So I'm going to just take a deep breath. You can take it with me, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay. So let me set the scene for my own fertility journey, just so if this is your first time hearing it, or if you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, because I just don't, I feel like I share about things as I'm going through them or after I go through them. And now fertility was like it feels so long ago, even though it really wasn't, which is crazy. All right. So my partner and I started trying back in 2019. 2019. We tried for a year, because that's what they say, try for a year, see what happens. And about 85% of couples that try for a year will get pregnant within that first year. And so I have mixed feelings about this as somebody who experienced infertility. Is like, when they're like, oh, that could be normal, like, just keep trying. It's like, Isn't there a better way? Like, do we have to go a full fucking year before we like start testing and stuff? But to each their own. So that's, where you got to advocate for yourself and see what you feel comfy with. But we go the whole year, and like as every month ticks by, I'm getting more anxious. I'm getting more upset. I'm like, I like my husband and I are the most type A people in the entire world. So I was like, I really would have thought this would have happened by now. I thought we'd be like one and done kind of thing. So then 2020 hits, right? And that impacts my mental health dramatically. And it impacted fertility treatments. Like I feel for all the people that were already going through IVF and going through embryo transfers and all of this stuff during 2020 because they had to like go into treatment alone because they wouldn't let you bring someone in and all this stuff. But we were lucky by the time we went and got tested and started this process with our reproductive endocrinologist. My husband was able to come with me, and we went through extensive testing, both of us, for months and months and months. And once we got our diagnosis from the reproductive endocrinologist, she kind of just sat us down and was like, look, IVF, it's like IVF or bust for you guys. Like, I'm not even going to put you through IUI. It's just not going to be what is going to work for you. It's very, very likely that it wouldn't work. So, if you want to save money and time and putting my body through that, she was like, it's IVF or it's a miracle that it could happen naturally. And so, after a long contemplation, we went forward with IVF. And I can sit here now after I have, again, an almost 1 year old and 3 year old both conceived through IVF and say IVF was by far the best decision that I ever made. It was worth every blood, shed, tear. Like it was worth everything. But I can also tell you that it was by far, hands down, the hardest thing I've ever been through mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. Um, it's so fucked up that it's not covered by insurance. And we weren't lucky enough to have an employer at the time that covered it. So we had to pay out of pocket. And we had people closest to us that were like adamant about helping us. And it's so fucking insane. But, anyways, so looking back at my fertility journey and just giving you like a quick timeline of it, we did 3 rounds of egg freezing or like, trying to get my eggs out. The first, and then create embryos. So that's the IVF process. So the first round failed, as in we got some, but if any of you are going through it, you know that you have an amount of eggs that they get out of you, right? They get your eggs out, then they fertilize it with the sperm, then they see if it turns into an embryo. And it's like as you pull out the eggs, then you fertilize, like the numbers keep dropping, 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 dropping. We also chose to genetically test our embryos um, for many different reasons. And again, that's like a personal preference. And again, it's a privilege because it takes money and it's resources and all these things. But so after our first round of IVF, which was, I want to say, estimated at this point between medications, the treatment, everything, we were looking at about $20,000. And I just want to be very like open about that. We're $20,000 in, and we're sitting across the table from our reproductive endocrinologist saying, like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, I will never, ever forget getting the phone call that we had nothing to show for it. The amount of waiting and time and shots and procedures. And I did everything to a T, everything to a T of what they said. And we had nothing. And then you're sitting across from the reproductive endocrinologist and they say, well, if we do it again, there's a 50-50 shot that you're either going to have better results or worse results. And like she was very honest with me, which I was very fortunate, but she was like, your IVF treatments are just as much diagnostic as they are treatment. Like as we're going through IVF, we're learning about your body, we're learning about your eggs. Like that was the first time they extracted eggs from me. So they were able to see my eggs. They were able to see how my husband's sperm and my eggs work together, right? Or lack thereof, and like what we can try to change, which is just like so insane that they can do that. Science is insane. Like both of my daughters, if you really think about it, okay, let's get trippy here for a second. And I kind of like doing this, but then I'm like, okay, it's crazy. Both of them were conceived on the same day because it was through IVF. Our second round was successful, and both of my daughters' embryos were from our second round. They were conceived on the same day, but then they were frozen, right? And they were both like the best of the best, like the highest quality. So I told the embryologist, like, whenever we did our first transfer, I was like, you pick whatever one looks the fucking best. Like, you know what you're doing. I don't know shit. So pick the best one. So they picked the one that became my first daughter. And it's wild to think about because if they would have picked my now baby, my youngest, and put her in first, then she would be the older one. But, like, it's so weird. And if they would have put both of them in, because some people do that with IVF, like this, depending on your diagnosis and anatomy and stuff, they might suggest putting two embryos in at once. And so if I would have put them in at the same time and they both would have stuck, then they technically would have been fraternal twins. So they could have been twins. They could have switched who's the older sister, who's the younger sister. Like, it's just fucking insane. And like, they were conceived on the same day, but my youngest just chilled in a freezer for 2 years longer. Like, wild. Science is so incredible. Okay. So some of the questions that I get over and over and over and over again are like, what did you do to make your round successful from round 1 to rounds 2 and 3? Because we did 3 rounds of egg freezing, embryo freezing. My mindset. Like, if I had to tell you what was different, it was my mindset. I want to quickly go over nutrition, and I say quickly because there is nothing. I want you to hear this and hear it. Listen, pull out your listening ears like I'm talking to my toddler. There is nothing that you can eat that is going to cause your infertility or cure your infertility. Let me say that again. There is nothing that you can eat that is going to cause or cure your infertility. Okay. I cannot stress that enough as a registered dietitian and someone who has gone through infertility for years on end. What did I do from a perspective of nutrition? I made sure I was eating enough, hydrating your body. Those are the two most important things that you can do. Stressing about your food intake is not going to help your fertility journey at all. Sure, we can eventually broach the conversation of like having carbohydrates and proteins and fats and getting a variety of nutrients. That is nutrition, like science and nutrition education that I would go through with anyone, not just someone going through infertility. So when it comes to my fertility, like clients that I'm working with and that our team supports, we are looking at, are you eating enough? Because if you want to create human life, that takes energy, sis. And we need to be eating enough. And hydration, water is found in every single cell in the body. Those are the only two things I truly would tell someone going through infertility. Are you eating enough? Are you drinking enough water? Not, don't eat this. These are the 20 foods that'll get you pregnant. Fuck that shit. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. Don't subscribe to that diet culture bullshit. Now, what I did differently between rounds 1 and 2, again, this is going to be so individualized. Please, I feel like I don't need to say this, but I'm going to say it. I am not a reproductive endocrinologist. This is not medical advice. This is my personal journey. And this is where it's so important for you to get an RE, reproductive endocrinologist, that you trust. And so from rounds 1 to 2, we adjusted my meds just a little bit. So most people will be on like Menopur, Gonal, I forget the one. Citra, I fucking forget them. This is how long ago it was. But I remember they only adjusted my Gonal dose and they actually lowered it a little bit. And at that point it was to let my body do a little bit more of the work. And then I also added in Omnitrope, which is HGH, human growth hormone, which has been like clinically proven to help your egg quality as a female. Now, let me say, and in this entire episode, you could use this disclaimer. I understand it is such a privilege to be able to be like, and I added this. That drug is fucking expensive. expensive and it is not covered by insurance. And I am very fully aware of the privilege that I hold that I was able to do this. But that was something that we added. And then I also went to acupuncture. I didn't do any acupuncture for my first round. Acupuncture is still something to this day. I added that in 2020 in my life. I still go to acupuncture now in 2025. I believe that it has dramatically helped my mental health, my physical health. I think it helped me conceive. Again, that's another thing that there's like actual research on people going through IVF doing acupuncture. So us IVF girlies, we just love our needles. What can I say? Like literally just the amount of needles that I've placed in my body over the years. That sounds bad, but I don't mean from illegal drugs. I mean from fertility drugs and acupuncture needles. Insane. Okay. So those were like the biggest things. And then like I said earlier, I think it was my mindset shift. And this is really going to hurt to hear this, but I think if you're going through fertility treatments, I wish somebody had said it to me, but this was something I had to figure out for myself. So you might hear these words today and be like, fuck you. I don't want to do that. I understand. It sucks. Between rounds 1 and 2, I had to accept that I might never have my own biological children. I had to grieve deeply and accept the fact that I might not be able to carry a child and it might never work. And we might throw tens of thousands of dollars at this and get to the end and say we did everything we could and this isn't our journey. This isn't our path. Like this isn't going to happen for us. And that was the fucking worst to get there. But huge but it was necessary. It was necessary because my first round versus my second round, my first round, it was like, this has to work. I have to do everything right. My life revolves around this. My second round, I was very like, you know what? I'm doing everything I can, but I cannot control this. No matter how badly I want to control this, I cannot control it. And that mindset shift of just like, handing over the control. Like I can do the shots. I can put food in my body. I can hydrate myself. I can try for stress management techniques. I can do these things. I can care for myself. I can be compassionate for myself. I can support myself and get a support system that's helping me. But I cannot make these treatments successful. Like I don't have the control. My reproductive endocrinologist doesn't have that control. And that like understanding that and accepting that was necessary for me. And I mean this because I know as much as I want my ending for you, like if you're listening to this and you're going through IVF or you're thinking about it, I want you to have the success story. I want you to have the child in your arms. And I want to be explicitly clear that IVF does not work for everyone. There is a 60% chance of pregnancy when you implant a healthy embryo into your body. That fucking sucks. I remember hearing those odds and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this can't be 100%, 90%, 99%, 60%. 60% is really high. But guess what? 40% not working is also high. I have friends that have gone through 7 embryo transfers and never ended up pregnant. I have friends that on their 8th embryo transfer, their last embryo, their worst quality embryo, it worked. Everyone's journey is so dramatically different. You cannot compare and contrast, but I think it's important to be real with yourself that this is not guaranteed. And I was treating my first round like this fucking has to work. This is going to work. And I shifted my mindset. And again, I want success for you. I want you to have that baby in your arms, and I am claiming that energy and I am throwing it at you through this microphone. And I promise your journey will be less stressful and more enjoyable if you come to this radical acceptance. That doesn't mean that you can't desire having your own baby. Like, it's not like I was like, oh, whatever. No, like I wanted my own fucking biological child more than anything. But I got to a place that I was like, if it doesn't work, if this doesn't work, I accept it. I will accept it. We will cross that bridge when we get there and we'll figure out what the next steps are. And I will survive. Because going through my first round, I felt like it was the end of the world when I was told that it failed. And I think getting that first round failing was so necessary for me to get to that acceptance, right? Like if the first round would have worked, I'd be like, okay, like I did this, check this off, but it was like, no, this literally might not work. Okay. Other things I've written down, like I want you to know you are not alone if you're going through infertility or if your friend's going through it, like they are not alone. You're going to feel fucking alone. Couple reasons why. One, people don't get me wrong, like now a lot of people are open about their fertility journeys, which is awesome. Like so important and so helpful. But people aren't like, wow, they're going through it. Usually like, hey, like I'm not pregnant again, like month 13 of negative pregnancy tests. Like it's so fucking hard and it's sad and it's difficult and it's challenging and you can't control it. And so like most people aren't talking about it. Now, if you have a close friend that's going through it or you have someone that's incredible because it's super helpful, um, but a lot of people feel alone. And so one thing I would encourage you to do, find social media accounts that help you feel less alone. And during this season, you need to protect your peace. And I wrote that down and I like circled it on my notebook. I unfollowed people. I muted accounts. So like now Instagram has that feature where you can mute, right? So if you have like a best friend that's pregnant, right? Or if you have, whatever, a cousin or, if you're in that season of life where it's like pregnancy announcement, gender reveal, first birthday party, like you can be deeply happy for those people. And there's always an and. You can be so jealous and sad and envious because you want that more than anything. And if it's not going to be helpful to see that on your feed over and over and over again, then let's mute it. Let's unfollow them, like whatever you feel comfortable with, because it can be like kicking you when you're down to just see that over and over and over. So I definitely like made my social media way less of people that were pregnant and gender reveals and all that stuff. And I followed a bunch of fertility accounts. And I'm talking like IVF accounts, like people that were fostering, like all these different kind of accounts I was following that were super helpful because that was like people going through what I was going through. Right. And I think about that with like Find Food Freedom. Like you're probably following this account because you're maybe struggling with your relationship with food or body. And now, like, even more niche down clicking on this episode, maybe fertility, but you're following other accounts like this. You're not going to be following, like, lose 30 pounds with me by tomorrow accounts, right? Like, we're not going to be following diet culture accounts. We're going to be following the accounts that lift us up and make us feel pleasant when we engage with their content. And I want you to do the same thing with fertility content. And to be honest, like I remember following different IVF accounts and then like when I was in the thick of it still and I would see like maybe somebody get pregnant with IVF, I'd be like so happy for them because I knew their struggle and I knew what they went through. But then I would probably like unfollow them or mute them because I was like, I don't have that yet and I'm not ready to see that yet. And even though they had gone through that struggle, it was like I needed to be surrounded by people going through the same thing as me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think that's super healthy. And protecting your peace is going to be different than me. Like, I know friends that still are actively going through infertility that they will not attend baby showers. And I know a lot of people that don't understand that. And they're like, why won't she come to this shower? Because she can't. Because it fucking breaks her heart. Because it reminds her every single time that she doesn't have a child. Like, this isn't about what other people think. This is about yourself. And so maybe it's not attending baby showers. Maybe it's not following friends on social media. Like whatever that thing is, only you know what's right for you and you can protect your peace during this season of life, however long this season is. And then I would say getting professional support. So whether that could be fertility groups. So I was a part of a virtual support group. There are so many different ones out there where once a week I would hop on a call with people all over the nation going through infertility. Some of these women were going through secondary infertility, or they were trying for their third child and they couldn't get pregnant, or they were fostering, or they were adopting, or they were going through IVF, or they were doing IUI, or whatever it was. And it was just like connecting with these people that so deeply understood the ache. And we would show up and we would just like show up as we were and lift each other up. And it was so incredibly helpful. And again, like using that parallel to Find Food Freedom, I think about like we have a group coaching program, we have a mastermind program, we have a membership where people are hopping on these group calls and connecting with other people on their journey to find food freedom and to make peace with their body. And that is some of the most helpful things you can do is connect with other humans that are going through similar lived experiences, right? And so it could be that support group, but it could also be professional support. And I, as I mentioned, that my little IVF miracle, I'm like pointing to her monitor, is still sleeping. She's like rolling around. But before I hopped on to record, I was looking and I couldn't find it. And it was making me so angry. I got a message from someone, a DM the other day that they had DM'd me years ago when I had started going through infertility. And they were going through fertility treatments at the time too. And then I like shared something on my story the other day about IVF. And she messaged me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, look back. Like the last time I messaged you, we both didn't have children. We were both going through fertility treatments. And now we have our miracles." And I say that because like having that community is so important. And she was thanking me for just like being open and like sharing my journey online, making her feel less alone, all of those things. And I want to connect that to professional support because we have multiple clients at Find Food Freedom that are working on healing their relationship with food and body, and they are currently going through fertility treatments. And I think that it is deeply intertwined, like our relationships with food and our body and fertility, especially relationship with body, because when you were going through fertility treatments, like you feel like your body is failing. Like, why the fuck am I not getting pregnant? I've tried my whole life to not get pregnant and I want to get pregnant. You're telling me I can't get pregnant. So I would highly, obviously, I'm going to recommend the Find Food Freedom team because I know all of our incredible providers and we take health insurance and we can support you during this really, really tough season. And if it's not our team, there are so many other professionals out there. One of my favorites is Fat Positive Fertility. She is an incredible follow. If you are going through infertility and you reside in a larger body, like run, don't walk, and go follow Fat Positive Fertility. Her account is incredible. I know she does different support groups. She has a lot of virtual support. So that is one I would highly recommend. Natalie Crawford is, if you look her up, she's a pretty well-known reproductive endocrinologist that owns, I believe it's Fora Fertility, Fora. I think that's the name of her clinic. She's very open about like advocating for women's rights in this political climate that we have right now, as well as just sharing like evidence-based stuff around fertility. I do want to like give a little disclaimer and a little warning that sometimes she will put out some like nutrition related content around fertility, and it's not my favorite. Like it feels a little icky, and I don't know if that's just because like I have, these glasses on, these lenses, if you will, metaphorically, that I'm always like looking for stuff that might trigger my clients, and I feel like some of it might be triggering. So take that for a grain of salt, but when it comes to like the research she spits and the stats she spits out about like IVF and fertility and eggs and aging and all of these things, it's like really, really incredible. And again, it's like a free resource on Instagram. Um, reproductivefacts.org is just like a great general website if you're feeling alone in your fertility journey, that you can find resources and you can find stats and you can figure out like what are my next steps, or like why am I dealing with this? What should I do next? But I think like I asked people this question a lot when they're walking away from listening to a podcast of mine, or if I'm interviewing someone, I say, what is one thing you want listeners to walk away from this episode and like take away? Take like if you don't remember anything else, because I've been pinball like machining, like as in my brain is just like bouncing back and forth this entire episode. I want you to walk away knowing a couple things. One, your body is not the problem. Your body is not the problem. Your body is not causing your infertility. Two, your food choices are not causing your infertility. Let me say it again. Your food choices are not causing your infertility. Number three, you are not alone in what you are going through. 10 to 15% of couples struggle with infertility. A lot of people are not talking about it, but you are not alone in your infertility. I cannot stress that enough. And so if you are listening to this episode, please know I am here for you. I have been through those dark seasons that I truly didn't know if I was going to make it out. Like, I was so fucking depressed. It was rough. It was fucking rough. And I'm sitting here today saying it was worth it. I wouldn't change a thing. I have two chunky monkey miracles that they're just so fucking cute and I love them so much. And science is incredible. Keep pushing forward, get support systems, protect your peace. You can do this. Send me a DM if you are going through fertility treatments and you just want to connect. Also, please let our team of providers support you. You can click the link in the bio below. You can go to the link you can click the link in our show notes below. You can click the link in bio on Instagram and TikTok. You can go to bit.ly/FFF insurance to check your insurance benefits and let our team support you. Let our team be there, listen to you, sit in the suck with you. But please know, walking away from this episode, your body did not cause your infertility. Your food choices did not cause your infertility. You will get through this season. I promise you, as hard as it is, there is a light at the end of this tunnel. I don't know what that light's going to look like for you, but I promise you will get through this. And if you have a friend going through infertility, please give them a hug this week. Send them a coffee, a virtual coffee via Starbucks. Let them know you're thinking of them. Just say to them, I'm sorry this fucking sucks, and I'm here for you. That's all you gotta say. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything. Just let them know it fucking sucks, and I'm here for you. Because that's what I am doing for you right now. It fucking sucks, and I'm here for you. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I will see you next week.